Hello students, I am Mr. Oza, your summer school ELA teacher, and welcome into week number 4 of this course. This is the second to last week. Next week we'll be doing week 5, and then we will be done with this unit. So thanks for watching this video, and let's jump right in. Instructions for this assignment. Number 1, watch this video. Already doing that, which is great. Second step, you're going to watch the movie Moonlight on Netflix. We're going to talk all about it in just a moment. And finally, complete the assignment on Google Classroom, and we will be going over that assignment at the end of this video. So 3 simple steps to get this assignment done. Alright, as you know, we are studying African American films during this course, and a quick refresher on why study African American films. Number 1, this is a great way to learn about other races or ethnic groups. By looking at their fiction, it helps us empathize with different groups of people. So when we see interesting characters and good actors dropped into interesting situations, difficult situations, entertaining situations, all kinds of different situations, it helps us empathize with these groups of people. You can also learn about issues within this particular community. So for example, in this movie Moonlight that we're going to be talking about today, we are going to see the LGBT issues that come up within the black community. So it's not just about learning about a different race or ethnic group, it's about learning about the issues and how those issues can kind of change and take on different forms when viewed through the lens of one particular ethnic group or another. So today we're going to talk about the LGBT issues that affect the black community specifically. And finally, they're just great movies. As you've already discovered throughout the course of this unit, they're just great movies that you can enjoy with a bowl of popcorn, hanging out and chilling on the couch for a couple hours. Alright, so in this film Moonlight, which was released in 2016, here are some of the themes that are covered in this film. So first of all, black masculinity. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be masculine in the black community? So these are issues that, young boys and young men and grown men have to deal with. But when looked at through the lens of the black community, does masculinity change at all? Does the idea of being a man change within this specific culture? Think about the culture that you come from. Think about other cultures that you interact with on a daily basis. What does it mean to be a man, and what does it mean to be masculine? So within this particular movie Moonlight, we are going to be exploring this theme specifically in the black community. Similarly, the LGBTQ community within black culture, one of the most important themes that we'll be looking at in this film. So what does the LGBTQ community look like within the culture that you come from, in other cultures that you see and interact with on a daily basis, whether it's people that you know from school or work or wherever. So specifically in this movie, we'll be taking a look at what does the LGBTQ community look like within the black culture. And similarly, this third theme here, for young people, exploring sexuality is a very important part of growing up and an important part of your adolescent life, and then of course a very important part of your adult life. And so within the black community, the African American culture, what is it like to explore your sexuality? And we're going to see a young man growing up exploring his sexuality, and what kind of impact does that have on his life, on his friendships, and it's an interesting story, and it's kind of highlighting these 3 issues mainly, these 3 first bullet points. A couple of secondary themes that you're going to see are, first of all, drug abuse and drug economics. So, what happens when people get stuck in the cycle of drug abuse? And then, even if you're not stuck in the cycle of actually abusing drugs, the economics of drugs, it can be very profitable business to be in. Of course, not encouraging anyone to participate in that, but even if you're not abusing drugs, the economics of drugs can be very enticing for young people and adults both. And so you'll see some characters dealing with both the issues of abusing drugs and the economic side of drugs. And then finally, growing up in a life of poverty. This film takes place in Miami, Florida. Most of it does, at least. And what is it like to grow up in poverty, and what kind of issues are these characters facing? So again, these are the themes of the film. The top three right here: black masculinity, LGBTQ community within the black culture, and young people and adults exploring their sexuality. These are the kind of three main ones that we're going to focus on. All right, and here is the promotional movie poster for Moonlight. As you can see, there is, one boy, adolescent, and man kind of photoshopped into this one image, of a person's face. And so I'll get into the details of what's going on here. I'm going to let it kind of sit in your mind for a minute before we actually discuss the details of what is happening in this image, because I think this is just a phenomenal promotional poster, which I'm just going to let it do its job here. Maybe kind of hook you into the story a little bit, and then we'll explain exactly what's going on here in just a moment. All right, so before we do that, let's talk about the context and the critical reception for this film, Moonlight. You may have heard of it before. First of all, important to some people. I find it pretty interesting, not as important to other people. But on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a site that aggregates hundreds of different critical responses to a film, 98% of critics have a positive review of this movie. So that is pretty high. Rotten Tomatoes is kind of known for having tough standards. So to have a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, that's high praise, if you ask me. Metacritic, another site that reviews all kinds of different media, but on Metacritic, which is similar to Rotten Tomatoes in that it takes the actual critic responses, so not just regular people like you and me, but the people who've made a career out of reviewing films, it's got a 99 out of 100 rating. So pretty high praise there from the critics. The Oscar winner for Best Picture in 2016, and you can see this is bold and underlined. This is perhaps the highest praise that a film can get. In 2016, it won the Best Picture award at the Academy Awards, also known as the Oscar Awards. So to say that it was the best film of the year, that is pretty impressive. In 2016, it also won the Golden Globe Award, a similar awards show, for Best Motion Picture Drama. So again, these are all critical reviews. So these are, film critics saying that this is, not just a solid movie, that it is a top of the line, critically acclaimed movie. And according to the critics, it is one of the best films of the 21st century. So 21st century is only 20 years old now, so it's still only 1/5 of the way through the century. But to say that it is one of the best films of the last 20 years is, again, extremely high praise. Don't just trust the critics. You're going to obviously watch this movie and come to your own conclusions. But if you do care about what movie critics have to say, then know that this is one of the most highly acclaimed movies that has come out in a long time. All right, so let's talk about some of the main characters in the film Moonlight. So here you see a kind of different variation of the movie poster that we saw a couple of slides ago. So the main character's name is Chiron. All right, Chiron, we see 3 images here of the same character, but you will notice that these are 3 different actors. So as usual, when I go through these slides and I kind of introduce the movie to you, I try to do my best, not spoiling the movie completely, but giving you enough background and a little bit of insight to just kind of make you excited and give you, a few hints as to what the movie's about. So I'm going to try not to give everything away here, but I am going to give you some context. So here we see Chiron as a little kid, just a little boy. Here we see Chiron as a teenager, and here we see Chiron as an adult. And so the movie is divided into 3 acts, a beginning, a middle, and end, where we see the progression of Chiron's life. And they have 3 different actors playing the main character. I think one of the great things about this film is that there's a very believable transition between, the child Chiron to the teenager Chiron, and then same thing going from the teenager to the adult Chiron. So it's pretty impressive the way they have 3 actors all playing the same character, Chiron, and it's a nicely organized film, as you have a clear beginning, middle, and end to Chiron's life. So, in the beginning of the movie and in the middle of the movie, we see Chiron as a victim of bullying. All right, and you'll understand why as you watch the movie. Already talked about how his life is in kind of 3 chapters here. Here are some of the things that he goes through, exploring his sexuality, as we mentioned in the theme slide. For any young person and for any adult for that matter, exploring your sexuality is a huge part of your life, and it's oftentimes for many people a very difficult part of your life. And unfortunately, for one reason or another, for many reasons, there are people in this world who make it hard for us to explore our sexuality. People can be very judgmental. A lot of people are not accepting of other people's sexuality. And if you ask me, that's a shame. That's one of the very unfortunate parts of human nature, is to interfere with other people's sexuality. And so this is something that Chiron has to deal with. And it's not easy. It's not easy for any person. And in this film, we explore the exploring of sexuality, particularly for Chiron in the black community here in Miami, Florida. Couple other things he has to deal with: navigating drugs and poverty. So not just navigating drugs, but the economics of drugs, and what is it like to deal drugs, to make money off drugs, and as far as abusing drugs, using and abusing drugs, that is something that he has to deal with. Growing up in poverty, the struggles of living in poverty in Miami, and just like the overall family struggles that he has to deal with. His family situation is unique. The issues that he goes through with his mother are unique. So it's quite a journey for Chiron through these 3 main phases in his life. An excellent character that I think you will enjoy watching his story, even though it's tough to watch at certain points. I think you'll really enjoy the character. All right, next character we'll talk about is Kevin. All right, we do see Kevin as a young kid, so just like Chiron, we see Kevin at the 3 different phases. So this is the middle and end phases of the film where we see the character Kevin. I'm gonna keep it very simple, keep it very brief on this character. Don't want to give away huge plot points that you're gonna watch, but Kevin is one of Chiron's friends, and he lives in Miami, and the kind of drama that they go through together, the bonding that they go through together, the relationship that they build together, is a huge central point of the film. So, great character as well. I think you'll also be interested to see how Kevin's character plays out. All right, gonna quickly go over these 3 characters. These are important adults in Chiron's life, and I'm actually going to start from the right and work my way to the left. Paula is Chiron's mother. Paula, is a single mom trying to raise Chiron. She goes through a lot of struggles, her own personal struggles, throughout the film. Doing the best she can as a mother. Some would say maybe she's not doing the best that she can. So she goes through quite a quite a life. We see her in the three phases of the film: the beginning, the middle, and the end. And so we will see a definite evolution in this character, and seeing her progress is one of the more interesting parts of the film. Um, One of my personal favorites, in fact, probably my favorite actor and my favorite character in the movie, is this character, Juan. All right, Juan meets Chiron early in the movie, and um, he's from Cuba, moves to Miami, and he kind of serves as a bit of a father figure to Chiron. And so just great actor, great attitude, just a very kind of humble, interesting character. Juan, you will see in this film. So finally, I'll go to Teresa. Teresa is Juan's partner, and she serves as, you know, I don't want to say a mother figure because, obviously Chiron already has a mother here. But if Juan is the kind of father figure to Chiron, Teresa is also there in a very supportive role in Chiron's life. So these three characters play a big impact. They have a big impact on Chiron's life as, a child, as a teenager, and an adult as well. How are you going to watch this movie? It is on Netflix. If you don't have a login, then please get in touch with me. My contact info all in the description below. Get in touch with me and we will make sure that you have access to this movie. It's about an hour and 45 minutes long or so, so it's a pretty reasonable amount of time. All right, let's do the content warning here. Couple things to mention before you just jump right into this film. It is rated R, so beware of that. You may not want to have, little kids in there watching the movie with you. Obviously the swearing is, a big reason for that rated R. So just, be aware of the language that you're going to hear. Drug use is going to occur in this film, so obviously don't want to advocate for any drug use, so just keep that in mind. That is one of the things that you're going to see. You will see a couple of sex scenes. There is no explicit nudity, but there are a couple of sex scenes that might make you uncomfortable. I personally think that you can get through these scenes, and I encourage you to just kind of get through these scenes and watch them, as they do have a pretty big impact on the film, and they have an impact on just the whole overall message of the film. These are not gratuitous sex scenes. These are, I'm thinking of one in particular, but these are not meant to just kind of like spice up the movie. It's like pretty impactful on the overall message and the amount that you can learn from this movie. And so, I encourage you to kind of just watch them. If you feel uncomfortable watching these scenes, then you can skip them. If you feel uncomfortable for whatever reason watching this movie, I completely understand. I don't want to force you to watch any of this if it's going to make you feel uncomfortable or triggered or upset, and so we can come up with an alternative way of getting this assignment done. So please get in touch with me if any of this you cannot agree to. All right, so content warning out of the way. Let's talk about Google Classroom. So once you're done watching this movie, go to your Google Classroom page. You should certainly be signed in. You should have joined the class already by now, but if not, this is the code that you can use to join the class. All right, and you're going to go through 4 questions on this assignment. Pretty simple instructions, same for the last few assignments. So let's go over them right now. Question number 1. As you watch the movie, I want you to write down 3 things. I usually say this in all the videos I make, but I want you to sit there, I want you to enjoy, I want you to eat popcorn and, drink a soda and really enjoy the movie, without worrying too much about taking notes. But I will ask you to write down, just 3 things, which actually is kind of an easy thing to do in this film. As I've mentioned many times, you have 3 clear chapters in this movie. You see, child Chiron, teenager Chiron, and adult Chiron. And so that's one way to kind of approach this question, is for each chapter, just write down one thing, so that, like I said, I want you to enjoy, eat popcorn and all of that, but you're, especially in an academic context like this summer school class and watching these movies, your initial reactions, your kind of gut instinct right there in the moment of watching the movie, I think is pretty valuable. It's something that I think you should share and put in your assignment. So anything that you thought was interesting, any music that you liked, any specific characters that you liked. Specifically the character Juan early in the movie, the kind of father figure to Chiron, just something about his acting, just something about that character. I just loved it. I just thought it was phenomenal, excellent acting. So any specific actors that you like, and of course anything that you didn't like, any decisions that the filmmaker made that you just didn't really agree with, any questions that you had along the way. And finally, did you notice any connections between the movie and the quote-unquote real world? Anything that you saw in the movie that you've also seen reflected out there in the real world, out there in your kind of, daily routine. All right, question number 2, you're going to see a bunch of plot-based questions. You're going to see a long list to choose from. If you just choose 2 questions to answer, we'll be good. Of course, you can answer as many as you like, but I'm going to ask you to go through the list and choose at least 2 to answer. So again, this is kind of just asking your reactions to certain scenes, asking, how you felt about certain characters' decisions, how you felt about the filmmaker's decisions, and you get to choose, so feel free to choose 2 or more. All right, third question. What does water symbolize in the film? All right, notice all of the scenes with water. All right, what is symbolism, by the way? Symbolism is when you have one kind of image or one sort of idea that represents a much greater concept, that represents a much bigger idea. So in this film, you're going to see water. Whether it's Chiron at the beach when he's going swimming. Here you see Chiron as a teenager. He's, dumping water on his face, or he's, splashing water on his face from the sink and looking at himself in the mirror. Here you see him as an adult, splashing water on his face and then, wiping his face off in the mirror. I don't think this is a spoiler to say, but the very final image that you see in the film involves water. So what does water mean? Like, yeah, he lives in Miami and he goes to the beach, yeah, but what does the water represent? What is the greater concept, the bigger idea that is represented by water? Similar to how in the last movie that we watched, Imperial Dreams, you saw the horses, right? Horses kind of represented this idea of freedom, of, making your own choices in life and having the freedom to kind of do what you want and live the life that you want to lead. So what is water? Like, what does it represent? What is a big idea behind the concept of water? And really interested to see your thoughts. I don't want to share my thoughts. I definitely have my own opinions. Having watched this movie, I don't want to kind of give away my ideas. I don't want to influence yours at all. So I want to hear what you have to say about this one, and then as I read your responses, I'll be happy to share my thoughts as well. Fourth question, keeping it really simple here, but of course very excited to hear your responses. What can society do to support the black community? Whether society, when I say society, I mean government, regular people like you and me, school systems. Society is a pretty big concept. So what can we do as a society to support the black community? Second question, what can society do to support the LGBTQ community? What can we do? I think when you watch this movie, I think it will give you some ideas for both of these questions, more specifically the second question. But I think after watching this movie, you will not have a hard time answering this question. So what can society do, whether it's the government, whether it's parents, whether it's, regular people like you and me, businesses, school systems. What can we do to support the LGBT community? So that's it for this video, guys. I want to make sure that you get in touch with me if you need any help. Here's my number, here's my email address, and you can of course call me, text me. We can set up a time to FaceTime or do a Zoom call. Any of that, I'm totally down. So this is the second to last week of the unit, week 4 out of 5. Once again, I want to thank you for watching this video. Get in touch with me if you need any help, and I will see you all next week.